What happens when a town loses its reason to exist? Not because of war, not because of one sudden disaster overnight, but slowly, year after year, as jobs disappear, stores close, schools lose students, and younger generations decide never to come back. In Oklahoma, that process is happening in more places than most people realize. In this list, we'll visit 15 towns struggling the most to survive in Oklahoma. Some have lost half their population, some have lost the industries that built them, and one town has almost disappeared from America's map. It is hard to find a small town in Oklahoma with a story more tragic than Picher. In the early 20th century, Picher grew rapidly as one of the largest lead and zinc mining centers in the United States. But decades of mining left behind millions of tons of toxic waste that polluted the soil and water. Later studies found alarming levels of lead contamination, especially among children. The situation worsened when the federal government designated the area for a major environmental cleanup. In 2008, an EF4 tornado destroyed much of the town and pushed even more residents to leave. Today, Picher looks more like a ghost town than a living community. Empty buildings, quiet streets, and abandoned mining land dominate the view. With its population almost gone, Picher has become a symbol of one of the most famous environmental failures in American history. In the far western corner of Oklahoma, near the borders of New Mexico and Colorado, sits Kenton, a tiny community often considered one of the most remote places in the entire state. With a population of only a few dozen people, Kenton sits far from Oklahoma's economic centers. The nearest major city is dozens to hundreds of kilometers away, while services like hospitals, shopping centers, and modern job opportunities are extremely limited. Ironically, Kenton lies in an area with one of Oklahoma's most unique landscapes. Nearby is Black Mesa, the highest point in the state and a popular destination for hikers and travelers. But those tourist visits are not enough to create meaningful economic growth for the local community. Today, Kenton survives as a symbol of American frontier life that is becoming increasingly rare. At first glance, Okmulgee may not look like a town that belongs on a list of Oklahoma's worst, but behind its history and historic architecture, Okmulgee has long struggled with serious economic and social challenges. The city once grew as an industrial and energy center in eastern Oklahoma, but over time, many manufacturing jobs and traditional sector jobs disappeared. The impact can be seen in a poverty rate that remains high compared with the state average. Another issue often mentioned by residents is a crime rate that is relatively high compared with many Oklahoma cities of similar size. On top of that, several commercial areas and residential neighborhoods show signs of stagnation after years of economic slowdown. Located in southeastern Oklahoma, Hugo is known as Circus City because of its long history as a winter home for American circus workers. But behind that interesting past, Hugo faces serious economic challenges. With a population of around 5,100 people, the city has long struggled with high poverty and household income far below the national average. Job opportunities are also relatively limited, with much of the local economy depending on government, education, healthcare, and small businesses. Like many other rural towns in Oklahoma, Hugo also faces brain drain as many young people move to bigger cities for better education and jobs. As a result, economic growth remains slow, and attracting major new investment is difficult. If any town represents the challenges of life in rural southwestern Oklahoma, Eldorado is one clear example. With a population of only a few hundred people, this small town has lost much of its population over the past several decades. Eldorado once grew as a farming community serving the surrounding area, but like many small towns across the Great Plains, agricultural modernization reduced the need for labor, while new economic opportunities were hard to create. As a result, population growth stopped, and many local businesses that once served as centers of community life slowly disappeared. Remoteness is also a major challenge. Its location far from Oklahoma's main economic centers makes jobs, healthcare, and entertainment far more limited than in larger cities. In the middle of western Oklahoma's open plains, Gotebo stands as one of the clearest examples of a small town slowly losing residents from one generation to the next. Founded in the early 1900s as a farming town and railroad stop, Gotebo was once a center of activity for nearby communities. But as farming technology advanced, the need for labor declined. What places Gotebo on this list is not high crime or severe social problems, but the long-term challenges it faces. With an aging population, little new investment, and limited growth prospects, Gotebo has become a symbol of many small towns across the Great Plains that are still surviving, but continue struggling to keep their communities alive in the 21st century. Located in southwestern Oklahoma, Roosevelt is one of the clearest small towns showing the impact of long-term population decline in rural America. In the mid-20th century, Roosevelt had far more residents than it does today. But over the past several decades, its population has kept shrinking until only 250 people remain. Although it is known as a quiet community with a relatively low crime rate, Roosevelt faces challenges just as serious as other towns on this list. Its declining population, aging residents, and limited economic opportunities make Roosevelt one of the small towns struggling hardest to protect its future in Oklahoma. Near the Texas border, Grandfield is one of the clearest examples of how economic change can reshape the fate of a small community. In the early 20th century, Grandfield grew quickly as an agricultural trade and railroad center in southwestern Oklahoma. But like many farming towns across the Great Plains, Grandfield was hit by farm mechanization, which reduced the need for workers. As jobs disappeared, many young residents began leaving for better opportunities in metropolitan areas like Wichita Falls, Oklahoma City, or Dallas-Fort Worth. The impact is clear in its long-term population trend. In the mid-20th century, Grandfield once had just under 1,700 residents. Today, that number has fallen to around 800 people. In northern Oklahoma, Blackwell was once an important trade and industrial center for the surrounding region. Thanks to the railroad, agriculture, and later the energy sector, the city saw steady growth through much of the 20th century. But in recent decades, Blackwell has faced challenges that are becoming harder to ignore. One of the biggest problems is long-term population decline. From a peak of nearly 8,000 residents in the mid-20th century, Blackwell's population is now far below that number. Blackwell also faces a relatively high poverty rate compared with the national average. The loss of some manufacturing jobs and reduced traditional economic activity have slowed the city's growth. As the county seat of Kiowa County, Hobart has an advantage that many towns on this list do not have. The city still functions as a regional service center, with government offices, a hospital, schools, and various local businesses. But that status has not been enough to stop the economic and demographic challenges that have shadowed Hobart for several decades. In the mid-20th century, Hobart once had more than 4,000 residents. Today, that number has dropped significantly, reflecting a trend common across many rural parts of Oklahoma. One symbol residents often mention is the condition of downtown, which is no longer as busy as it used to be. Several historic buildings still stand, but local business activity is far more limited than it was decades ago. In southeastern Oklahoma, Hartshorne was built on the industry that once served as the backbone of this region, coal. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, Hartshorne grew as one of the important mining towns in the area known as Oklahoma's Coal County Belt. But when the coal industry began to decline, Hartshorne lost its main source of growth. Many mines closed, jobs disappeared, and the town's population began to shrink. The impact of that shift is still felt today. Hartshorne also faces challenges common in many former American mining towns: relatively low household income, limited new job opportunities, and difficulty attracting large-scale investment. With a population of only a few hundred residents, Dill City is one of the smallest communities on this list. Located in western Oklahoma, where farmland and ranchland dominate the landscape, this town offers a quiet way of life, but also faces challenges that are becoming more common across many small Great Plains towns: a shrinking population and limited economic opportunity. Since reaching its peak in the mid-20th century, Dill City's population has gradually declined. The local economy still depends heavily on farming, ranching, and a small number of businesses serving residents' daily needs. There are few major industries or investment projects capable of creating a significant number of new jobs. Located in eastern Oklahoma near the Lake Tenkiller tourist area, Vian actually has several advantages that many other towns on this list do not. But behind its appealing location and beautiful natural setting, Vian still faces economic challenges that make it hard to grow as quickly as other communities in the region. Vian has a long history tied to the Cherokee Nation and trade routes in eastern Oklahoma. Even so, the town's economic growth has remained relatively limited over the past several decades. Most jobs come from education, local government, small businesses, and seasonal tourism around Lake Tenkiller. Household income in Vian is also below the national average, while poverty remains a challenge for some residents. Vinita actually has several major advantages. The city sits along Interstate 44, near the growth corridor of northeastern Oklahoma, and has a long history as one of the oldest communities in the state. But despite its relatively strategic location, Vinita has not fully escaped the challenges faced by many small towns in Oklahoma. In the early and mid-20th century, Vinita grew as an important trade center for the surrounding rural region. But as economic patterns changed and businesses consolidated into larger cities, Vinita's growth became much slower than metro areas like Tulsa. In recent decades, Vinita has also faced issues common in many small American towns, including a relatively high poverty rate compared with the national average and limited access to high-paying jobs. Antlers is a small town in southeastern Oklahoma, often called the deer capital of Oklahoma because of the large deer population in the surrounding area. On the other hand, Antlers' history is closely tied to the railroad and timber industry, which helped build the local economy in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Today, the town's economy depends more on government, education, healthcare, agriculture, and outdoor activities such as hunting and fishing. Seasonal visitors provide extra income that many other small Oklahoma towns do not have. Even so, Antlers still faces challenges common in rural areas. Household income is below the national average, while high-paying job opportunities are relatively limited. many young residents choose to move to larger cities for better education and more promising careers.